Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything. I'm coming at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In this video, we are painting the Robert Martin model for 148 Tactic. The first color I'm using is the Vallejo green-brown for his 1942 jumpsuit. Okay, so we are going to cover the entire jumpsuit, pants and jacket. We might even hit on top of the pouches and stuff like that. That's okay, because I'm going to come back later and paint the pouches. I did prime him with a khaki primer. Now the reason why I'm painting the green-brown instead of the green, like an olive green, like the 1943 jumpsuit should have, which is the Ardennes. The reason why I'm painting it in the 1942 D-Day paint scheme is because I think it looks more iconic. I think it just gives it a more, you can tell that they're American paratroopers. You know, and not just regular old guys. Now, Robert Martin is one of the expansion models. He's the Grenadier. Basically, he has grenades as one of his base weapons. He doesn't have to be given grenades. They're part of his loadout. Okay, so that is the green-brown on Robert Martin. Let's go ahead and let that green-brown dry, and then we'll be back with the next color. All right, now we're going to go ahead and paint the helmet, the Tamiya olive green. It's a little bit watery. So what it'll wind up doing is the camo webbing that's on the helmet will shine through as straps. And it's the right color. Okay, so we got his helmet. We're going to set that off to the side before I move on to the next color. All right, the next color is going to be red leather, and we're going to use that to paint the jump boots. So basically, it's simple enough. Just paint the boots right up to where the pants end. Now, the pants are tucked in to the top of the boot. They call that bloused. So that helps you kind of identify where the boots end and the pants begin. All right, and the American paratroopers used a brown Cochrane jump boot. Yeah, and that's all there is to it. All right, let's move on to the next color. All right, so the next color we're going to use is a Panzer Aces. It's called Field Gray. It's not though, but it's really just a dark green, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to paint the homemade knee pads that the American paratroopers stitched onto their uniforms. To protect themselves when they had to crawl. Okay, and they also did it on their elbows. Okay, so he got his knees and his elbows with the green. Now I'm just going to set him off to the side and let him dry a little bit. All right, our next color is going to be Khaki from Model Color. It's pretty much very close to exactly the same color that I primed this model with. But anywhere that I might have overpainted or messed up with the jumpsuit, I'm going to paint. Now, I'm painting his canteen this color. I'm painting the entrenching tool cover this color. I'm painting his musette bag this color. Now, it is a slightly different shade than the primer, but that's okay. And that's good because, like, if I mess up and miss something, it'll be okay because the primer's got it. It's got my back. Okay, now he's got some straps. All right, that looks good. We're going to go ahead and set him off to the side and let him dry. All right, now we're going to continue on with Robert Martin painting his rifle wood brown from Wargames. We're going to paint the whole thing because I'm going to come back over the metal parts afterwards. Okay, his entire rifle. And the wood of his entrenching tool. All right, let's set him off to the side and let him dry for a minute. All right, Robert Martin, let's go ahead and put some licorice on the metal parts of your M1. Basically, I'm preparing it for the metallic colors. And I'm also looking for his left shoulder, finding the 101st patch and painting it black. All right, we're going to set Jack Miller off to the Robert Martin off to the side, and we're going to let him dry a little bit. All right, now on Robert Martin, we're going to take some natural steel, and we're going to put it on the rifle where I put the black, but we're going to leave some of the black exposed to give it a shadow. All right, we're going to let that sit off and dry before we move on to the next. All right, now the next step on this model is to take some light tone shade and apply it to the entire model. This light tone from Army Painter is not, I did not dilute it with any water. This is just a pure wash. And I'm basically just applying it to every portion, every part of this model. Making sure inside and out and ups and downs and arounds. Okay, it looks good. So let's go ahead and let this guy dry before we move on to the next step. All right, the next step on this model is we're going to do some highlights after the wash. And we're going to use the exact same color. We're using the green brown, and we're going to go over his jumpsuit in areas that the fabric is kind of exposed. And this way we'll get rid of some of the dinge that was caused by the wash. But what it'll also do is it'll really make the wash stand out even more because it'll be stark contrast. And you want to try to go along with the folds of the fabric. You don't want to... So basically you're hitting the raised areas. Of the fabric. If you see the fabric get stretched, go along with the stretch. Okay, see how that's kind of highlighting some things? Okay, let me keep going. Collars, the pockets, which are like 45 degrees on the chest. Cuffs. Yeah, this is a tedious process, but I'd say it'll pay off in the end. This is probably the most tedious process, is the highlighting of the fabric. All right, so we're going to let those highlights dry a little bit, and then we'll be right back. All right, now the next thing we do is we're going to hit these packs, and we're going to use the original Khaki to highlight. We're doing just like we would have done the jumpsuit. We're just going to hit the raised areas. But in this case, I'm just hitting each individual little ammo pouch. Just giving it a little extra color. Just hitting the top parts of it where the sun might be beating down on it. Okay. Now the E-tool, it's a 3-step. I paint the right. I paint the left. I paint the center. And then the top flap. There we go. Now on the pack, the musette bag, I paint underneath between the straps first. And I don't paint it all the way to the top. Meaning I don't push it all the way up into this overflap. I leave a little bit of the wash in there. And then when I paint the top flap, I leave the wash showing. And remember, same thing with fabric, we're just painting the raised areas. There we go. Canteen. The 2 top flaps. The 2 sides. All right, now as grenade pouches, I'm just painting the top flaps. And then I'm just gonna hit the sides a little bit. There we go. So pack, ammo. Only thing left would be like straps. All right, that looks good. We're going to set him up to the side, let him dry. We'll move on to the next color. All right, now the next color is his grenades. We haven't touched his grenades at all. And so I'm using olive gray from Model Color. And let's go ahead and take a look at his grenades. He's got a few of them. He's got one on his chest here. Taking care to only paint the grenade. And he has one in his hand that he's lobbing. So let's go ahead and make sure we hit that up. We want that grenade to stand out. It's got the spoon on the top. And those are the only two grenades exposed on him. You got this one and this one. All of his other grenades would be in these pouches here. All right, so we're just going to set him down and let him dry a little bit, and we'll be right back. All right, now one of the next steps we're going to do is we're going to prepare the base edges, and we're going to paint them U.S. Army green. Now, I don't just paint the edge. I also kind of go up into the flat a little bit. I don't need to paint the flat because I'm going to be texturing it as well as flocking it. So I just want to make sure that there's no exposed corners here that still has some khaki shining through. But even if there is, it doesn't matter. Khaki's kind of an earth tone anyway. A lot of people will paint their bases like bright green or brown, and that's fine. We're going to let him sit off to the side for a minute, and we'll be back with the next step. All right, guys. Now, the first step we do to texture our model is we get our glue applicating brush, which I use a tester's brush, and I put some glue in my palette, and then I just apply it to the base using my brush. It's more precise, more controlled method. I used to put the glue directly on the base and then move it around with a toothpick. That method was not as accurate, or not as, I don't know. I just feel like I have more control when I use the brush. Now make sure there's when you're painting your base with this glue, that you get it over everything that you want your rocks to stick to, right? And that's from inside all the way to the outside. And you want to also see like a white film. If you don't see a white film, then there's probably not enough glue on there. All right, now we don't dip the model into the glue. I grab the talus or whatever I'm using, and I drop it onto the model. All right, now we're going to let that set before I go to shake anything off, and then we'll be back in just a minute. All right, now the next step is to apply glue on top of the ballast, and I'm going to use Battlefield Grass Green from Army Painter. One of the reasons why is it's a sawdust mix, it's not a foam mix. And I'm going to use my brush and my PVA to gently, that's the key word, gently apply Elmer's on top of the stones in a pattern. And we're going to cover about 2/3 of this model. And the pattern you put on there can be any pattern, any design, doesn't matter. Just put it on however you feel makes you feel good. Okay. And then what we do is we just use our fingers. We sprinkle and let the flock fall onto the base where the glue is. We actually cover the entire base. We actually put extra flock on there. Kind of mound it up a little bit because we want that to soak into the glue and get a good grip. So we're going to let that sit there for a minute. and then we'll be back to shake it off and show you what we got. All right, this is Robert Martin, the Grenadier. All right, once I did all of them, I'm going to put them up here, right here, and you can see all of them. And this is all 7 of my Americans. I would like you to comment in the description below and tell me what you think of my 148 Tactic Americans. How far back do I got to go? Right there. Or better yet, I just do it like that. Alright guys, this is my 7 148 Tactic Americans. Tell me what you thought about the painting of each individual one, and come back and check out when I do the Germans. I'm going to do the Germans individually as well. Alright, and I'll see you in the next one.